The NFL offseason is, believe it or not, in a few short weeks, and when that time comes, there will be rumors swirling about several big-name players. The biggest name that is routinely involved in trade discussion is, of course, Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers, as his team in the past few years selected a quarterback in the first round without consulting him or even letting him know prior to the selection. Now, we will get more into the Aaron Rodgers situation later in the video, as this video will not solely be on Rodgers, and in fact, we will discuss several other NFL players that could get traded this offseason. Some are certainly big-name players, and some are ones you may not expect, so without further ado, let's begin. And we are going to start today's video with a current member of the Baltimore Ravens in backup quarterback Tyler Huntley. Huntley is certainly going to be in a lot of discussions this offseason, as he played a very good game this past Sunday against the Green Bay Packers and nearly won. And there is zero doubt other NFL teams took notice of this, and especially took note of Huntley because he is only 23 years old, and simply put, there are a lot of questions surrounding the upcoming NFL draft class, and more specifically at the quarterback position. What makes Huntley's situation particularly interesting is he will be an exclusive rights free agent this year. So what that means in the NFL contractual talk is the Ravens hold control of his contract and essentially if he will or will not be a Raven next year. The reason why he is an exclusive rights free agent and why you don't see this too often is because Huntley went undrafted, and unlike drafted players where they have the 4-year deals already in place, UDFAs or undrafted free agents contracts are set up a little different, and after that performance, it is very safe to say the Ravens will at minimum pick up his contract for 2022, and Huntley will, at least in Baltimore's eyes, back up Lamar Jackson next year. But there will be other teams calling for Huntley, not only for his recent performance, but for his low salary in 2022 and the potential he can bring a franchise. If you're an NFL GM and you don't want to risk what will equate to not only a first-round pick, but effectively where your family lives, your job, and very well your life for the next few years, and do not want to risk it on Matt Corral, Kenny Pickett, or Malik Willis, to name a few, Huntley provides another option that a few weeks ago, heading into this offseason, was not available. And at this point, given this QB class is not anywhere close to what Burrow, Tua, and Herbert were, or to what Trevor, Mack, and the rest of the gang in 2021 were, I'd be very surprised if at a minimum a team does not offer at least a second-round pick, if not more. And you may think, why would they do that over a single game, or even a few games, because he also started in Chicago about a month ago? Well, NFL teams do desperate things, and franchises like the Baltimore Ravens routinely do things right and would more than likely trade a backup quarterback based on potential here for a top 50 pick if there was a team willing to do this. And when Tyler Huntley would hit free agency, Baltimore would not receive compensation or anything. So there is a lot of incentive for them to be just as active trading him this offseason as there is incentive for quarterback needy teams to call GM Eric DeCosta and see what the cost on Tyler Huntley would be. The next player is Daniel Jones of the Giants, and this won't be a very long segment relative to Tyler Huntley and other players in the video, but the reason I do want to include him is there is a possibility of him being traded because of the potential change in leadership. It was recently announced Daniel Jones will miss the rest of the 2021 season due to a neck injury, and we include him here today because if Joe Judge is fired, and there's a strong possibility he is, as at best he can go just 13-20 through 2 seasons as the head coach of the Giants. Surely the Maras do not want to fire another head coach after 2 seasons like they did with Pat Shurmur, as Shurmur went just 9-23 in his 2 seasons in the Big Apple. If Joe Judge loses out this year, which could and probably will happen with Jake Fromm starting, he will have went 10-23 in his first 2 years as head coach. A new head coach would surely want to have his own quarterback, and Daniel Jones may not be that guy for both the new head coach and GM if the Giants are to replace not only Joe Judge, but Dave Gettleman in a few short weeks. So for that reason, Daniel Jones is included in today's video. Now on to the next player, and it is Danielle Hunter of the Minnesota Vikings. Whenever we think of premier pass rushers of the world, like the TJ Watts, the Nick Bosas, and I'm including a new one here, the Micah Parsons of the world, often someone like Danielle Hunter gets left out. However, he is truly an incredible player and was the youngest to reach 50 sacks back in 2019, and probably would have also been the youngest to 100 had he not been hurt the past few years and still been on the trajectory that he was. He missed all of 2020 due to a neck injury and unfortunately got hurt halfway through the 2021 season. He was certainly making his mark as he had 6 sacks in 7 games. The Minnesota Vikings led the NFL in both pressure rate and total pressures, and Danielle personally was more than on his way to another double-digit sack season, and more than likely his first 15-plus sack year. His current contract was a steal for the Vikings when they signed him back in the 2017-18 offseason, as he signed a 5-year $72 million deal. However, Danielle's production when healthy is near the top of the league, and Danielle understandably wants to be compensated as such. The average value of $14 million per year when healthy is nowhere close to what he would be worth now if he were looking for an extension. The problem that the Vikings would have is not the funds or how could they possibly pay him. It's more of a, look, Danielle, we love you, but you've played 7 games out of what will be the last 33 when the season comes to an end, and let's face it, you're becoming a liability to be able to stay on the field. And my guess is the Vikings would want to give Danielle a contract, something along the lines of a very heavy front-loaded deal, so they are not locked in long-term if he were to unfortunately have a third season-ending injury. Now, there was a little bit of drama entering camp this year with his contract, and it was temporarily reworked, as Danielle has an $18 million roster bonus for 2022, meaning he will make roughly $20 million next year, be released, which the Vikings simply won't do. They would trade him before not receiving multiple draft picks for him, or the third option, Danielle will be signed to a long-term extension. But with the Vikings being at such a crossroads in their franchise, will they push for a Super Bowl title or complete rebuild? And due to this, Danielle Hunter will be a name you hear a lot for players that could be traded this offseason. And now we discuss Aaron Rodgers and the possibility of him leaving Green Bay at some point this offseason. Rodgers' situation is particularly interesting because of his ability to play quarterback at an elite level. Groundbreaking news, I know. His personality, where it's pretty open how he holds grudges, and the Packers thinking they have the heir apparent on the roster right now in Jordan Love. There has never been a player of Rodgers' caliber traded in a situation like this in NFL history, period. I know the immediate thought may be Joe Montana to the Chiefs. However, when Montana was traded, he had played a singular half of football in the previous 2 seasons, while Rodgers won an MVP last year, and at this point it could be back-to-back MVPs, and is very much the same player he was a decade ago. There are currently 0 questions about Rodgers' ability to play football. Since 2020, Rodgers has 78 touchdowns to just 9 interceptions. Meanwhile, Montana had a singular half plate of football and was coming off of a season-ending and really 2 season-ending injuries. There were plenty of questions surrounding Joe at the time, and the only question surrounding Aaron right now is who will pay what for his services. The Packers, no matter how you slice it, will not trade him to an NFC team if they have control, and I would like to think they have control because we heard all offseason this past year how Rodgers was contemplating on not showing up and how he eventually showed up, and if he showed up for camp this past year, despite all of the rumors and circulation around him, like there was just a few short months ago, then I do think it is safe to say Aaron would show up again. So when it comes down to it, I think you look at 2 teams that need Rodgers more than anyone else and would be more than willing to pay more than anyone else, and it is the Denver Broncos and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Both teams right now are on the brink of the playoffs, and while I do not expect either to make it, and if either one does, I most certainly think they will be one and done, having Rodgers immediately throws both of them into the Super Bowl conversation. Giving Rodgers Javonte Williams, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, and Noah Fant would be better weapons than he has now, and that's collectively, to be clear, because we know none of the receivers are currently better than Davante Adams. And the same goes for Pittsburgh with Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Pat Freiermuth, and Najee Harris. And at this point, everyone knows both of these teams want Rodgers, and I mean, who wouldn't want him? But the Packers will more than likely use the other as leverage, because they can say during negotiations, hey, the other team is offering this, you guys know each one of you want Aaron Rodgers, and they will more than likely use tactics like that to get the absolute most that they can from this pending trade. At this point, I would be shocked if Rodgers is not a member of either one of these teams, and if he does become a member of one of these teams, things will get even more interesting in the AFC than they already are. And with the pending implosion of the Seahawks roster, I do think Seattle will look to get anything they can for Russell Wilson, with the departures of both Pete Carroll and John Schneider more than likely to come. Seattle had a good run, but all things must come to an end, and I think we will see the start of that this offseason. I am finishing recording this Wednesday morning, so yes, the Seahawks got absolutely hosed on a call with no defensive pass interference on Tuesday night. I genuinely do feel bad for Seahawks fans. But I do think that is the absolute least of Seahawks fans' worries right now, given their franchise quarterback, who has become a beloved hero in the city of Seattle, may be out the door this off season. Anyways, that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, now is the time I ask you to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as it would mean the world. Also, if you like my content, please follow on TikTok as well. The link is in the bio. I upload every day on there, and until next time, please be safe and have a great day.